Hi everybody, and welcome back to my channel. As you can tell from the title of this video, today we are going to be talking about setting boundaries and how that can actually help you improve as a writer and get more done. So if that is interesting to you, please keep watching. So we're going to dive right in, and the first thing I want to talk about before we even get started on my 3 tips that I have for you is, why is your writing project important to you? Now, the reason I ask you this question is because in order for you to even get to the point where you need to enforce a boundary, you have to feel like it's important enough to do that. You have to feel like it's necessary and a requirement in your life. So ask yourself, why am I writing? Why do I want to be working on this project and spending hours writing and editing and trying to get a book published? Why is it important to you? Once you figure out what your reason is and why this is a necessity in your life, then we can talk about boundaries. Because it's important to know why this is so important to you. It needs to be something that is unquestionable and is so important, so undeniably necessary in your life that you can't let it go. For me, that's what writing is. It really is. If I'm not writing, I'm thinking about writing, and I often will say that I need to get it out of my head, meaning like I need to put it on paper and I will think about a story idea until I get it out of my head. And it's that draw, that pull, that need to write. So if you feel the same way, or you understand what I'm talking about and you have a similar experience, you know what I'm talking about, and you know why it's so important and why it's so necessary in your life. So last week we talked about how important it is to set a schedule and set aside time specific to work on your writing project. Now that you've set this time, it's important that you, number one, honor that time. So you have to honor that time and respect it yourself first. So if you're not going to honor and respect it, you can't expect other people to. So when you make this promise to yourself that I'm going to write from this time to this time every day, or 5-6 days a week, whatever it is, then you need to respect that promise to yourself and honor it. So that comes first. Honoring the promise to yourself and knowing why it's so important to you and why it's necessary in your life. Now that we've tacked down why it's important, why it's necessary, and when you're going to be writing, now we need to talk about the people in your life. So we all probably know somebody who just thinks that we're available at the drop of a hat, no matter what, all the time. And this may not necessarily be their fault. Sometimes it's because of the expectations that we have given them, meaning that if you suffer from people pleasing, you may have shown them that you are available all of the time. Maybe every time they've called or texted, you've dropped everything that you're working on, everything that you're doing, and gone to the rescue, gone to hang out, party, whatever it is, go shopping. You've been available and you've been there. So maybe that's the expectation that they have, that they can do this. I personally have suffered from people pleasing in the past. I still deal with it to this day. It's not an easy thing to deal with. So if you've dealt with this, you know what I'm talking about when, someone calls and you would feel so guilty if you say the words no, or I'm sorry, I can't. So this is why setting boundaries is so important, and how it will help your writing and your creative time flourish. So let's jump into the tips on how you can set these boundaries and how you can also enforce them. So the number one tip that I have is tell people what you're doing. Most people who love and support you will respect your boundaries without you even having to ask them to. Tell them, hey, I'm working on NaNoWriMo this month. It's a writing challenge. This is what it entails. I'm going to try and write a whole book or 50,000 words in 30 days, 31 days. I think it's 30 days. And this is what I'm going to be working on in the month of November, and I'm so excited about it. I really appreciate your support, or however you want to say it to them. Tell them what you're working on. And most people who care about you will support you in that. They'll be excited for you, they will encourage you, and they will respect that. So when it comes time that they're calling you, if you pick up the phone, you said, hey, I'm working on writing for NaNoWriMo, it's going to click in their brain, oh yeah, they told me about this. I don't want to interrupt that. It's so important to them. So that'll make things a little bit easier on you. So tell people what you're working on ahead of time. And this may already come up in conversation. Most people, whenever you hang out or you talk, will be like, hey, what's going on with you? Well, that's a perfect opportunity for you to tell them, hey, I'm doing a writing challenge in the month of November, and I'm really excited about it. So you'll have opportunities to tell people, and it won't be so hard. So the first one is probably the easiest tip that I have, is to just simply tell people that you are working on a writing challenge. Even if it's not November, just tell people that you're writing a novel. The second one is my favorite one. I use this one all the time. If you're my mom or my sister, you're probably nodding your head while you watch this video right now because you probably heard me say it a couple times. Set up time with them later. This means that if they call you and you're in the middle of writing, you tell them, hey, I need to get this thought out of my head and I'll call you back. Most of the time, they will say okay. Now, this can be a little bit harder if they're wanting to not just talk, but if they're wanting to hang out with you. This will be different for everybody. Everybody has a different schedule. Everybody has different plans. So if you're in the middle of writing and you know that you're not going to be done for another hour, and then after that hour's done, you're free to go hang out. Then tell your friend, hey, at this time I'm available. I'll call you then, and if you want to hang out then we can get together. That's an easy solution. It's an easy way to tell them, this is important to me, I'm working on this right now, but you're important to me too, and I want to make time for you, but not right now. In a little bit. So this is a way for you to stick to your guns, tell people that your writing is important to you, set that boundary, continue working on your writing, and then hang out with your friends or your family at a later time, or maybe even a later date. It doesn't always have to be the same day. Maybe they called you at 8 o'clock at night and you know that you're going to be writing till 9 or 10 o'clock, and then you're going to want to go straight to bed because you're feeling tired because you just worked a full work day and it's a Tuesday or a Wednesday. And that's where we're going to go into the third one, which is probably the hardest one. I know it's the hardest one for me. And that is, be okay saying no. I know, it's hard. It really is. It sounds so simple, it sounds easy, but when it comes down to it, having to tell somebody no is a little nerve-wracking, especially as a people pleaser. So let's just get right into it. Sometimes it's in your interest to just say no. If you've already told them, this is important to me, this is what I'm working on, if you've already tried to set up time with them later, and it's not a thing, it's not working out, sometimes you just have to say no. And that's okay. You do not need to feel bad for this. You do not need to feel guilty for this. And that is something that will fade with time. It's really easy in the beginning when you suffer as a people pleaser to feel guilty for saying no. But sometimes saying no is the highest form of self-love and self-care, and it's necessary. And the people who, and I'll say this a lot, but the real healthy people in your life who love you, who care about you, who genuinely support you and want to see you succeed, they will understand this and they will not be upset. They may be disappointed, but they won't be angry with you. And that's an important distinction. You may be upset or disappointed that you can't spend time with your friend or your sister or your daughter because you miss them and you want to catch up. But you make plans with them later and you're fine with that because you know they're busy and you'll see them another time and it'll be okay. But you don't make them feel bad for doing what's best for them. That's the distinction. An unhealthy person will most likely try to make you feel bad for them. They'll try to bring on the pity party. They will try and guilt you. That's not signs of a healthy person. I don't want to talk too much about that in this video because that's not the focus, but it does need to be said that there are healthy and unhealthy people in the world, and the people who really love and care and support you will not make you feel this way. And that is why it's important to become comfortable with saying no. Sometimes you need to do it, because if you say yes to the kind of person who makes you feel that way, who makes you feel guilty for doing what's best for you, ask yourself, how do you typically feel after these interactions with them? Are they the kind of person who is genuinely happy for you when you succeed? Do they even ask about you and what's going on with you? These are things that you may need to reflect on and ask yourself if it's worth it. And that's part of setting boundaries and self-care. We have a responsibility to ourselves to curate our environment and to set up ourselves for success in life. And a big part of that is what we allow in our life. There's a saying that I love and that I kind of live by, that is, you are a direct reflection of what you allow in your environment. So if these people are not respecting your boundaries and you're allowing that negative energy into your life, what kind of environment are you going to have? So this is why setting boundaries as a creative person is so important. Your writing time is sacred. Your writing time is an appointment with yourself that you cannot cancel. Think of it like a doctor's appointment. Maybe not, because most people don't like doctor's appointments, but think of it as whatever you want to, but you need to put it in your mind that this is something that is non-negotiable, and you need to relay that to other people. So put it out there. This is what I'm doing. I love you, and I can hang out with you at a different time, but this is when I'm writing, and be comfortable saying no. And eventually you will learn to not feel guilty for doing what's best for you. So if you have any more questions about, other tips, because these are just 3, there's a lot of other practices that I have that, me and my husband both have for each other, because we're both kind of on different schedules and we have different boundaries that we set with each other in our personal lives as a couple. So if you want me to go in more detail about this, if you have more questions, please drop down in the comments and we can chit chat about it. I really hope that these have been helpful to you. As a creative person, it's really important that we honor our energy and we honor our time, because, our writing should be sacred to ourselves, and it's important and we need to take it seriously. So I hope this was helpful to you, and I am so thankful for you being here for another week and another video. Preptober has been going great so far. I have gotten a lot done. So here's a little mini update if you made it through the entire video all the way to the end. This week I managed to get everything done on my list. I am so excited. I did have to tweak a couple things in my schedule. So the main things I had to tweak was my self-care area. So I did not work on writing projects from only 6:30 till 8 o'clock. I ended up working on projects from 6:30 till like 10 or 11 o'clock at night. So my self-care ended up getting put to only an hour a night versus the 2 hours I had originally set aside, which is okay. What I had ended up doing was just making sure that the self-care section was more specific to something that I know that I was gonna definitely love, instead of a broad and we're just gonna chill and watch a movie. It was more of we're gonna light a candle and take a bath and meditate or relax and clear our minds and be off social media kind of thing. So that's kind of the little adjustment that I had to make. I was so excited about this week. Everything went so good, and I'm so excited about jumping into week, I think I'm calling it week 3, even though it's technically the second week of October. But I am so excited to jump into next week and keep going. NaNoWriMo is going to be great. It's my first time doing it, and I'm really happy with how everything's going so far. Thank you so much for being here and listening all the way to the end of this video. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. If you want to be notified next time I upload, ring the little bell down there. If you haven't already, I'm linking my website below called Aimlessly On Point. If you haven't been notified whenever I update blog posts, if you scroll all the way down to the bottom of my blog, there is a part where you can put your email and then a follow button. You'll get an email sent to you. All you have to do is confirm the email, and then you will be notified every time I update a new blog post. So thank you so much for being here, and I hope you guys have a good week. Bye!